In the news this week, the nuclear energy debate continues with a show of support, but where should a power plant be? Peter Kennedy's exclusive take.
Cost of living, rental crisis and skill shortages. New migrants are also feeling the squeeze as prices continue to rise. A young woman wounded during an altercation in Northbridge, with CCTV capturing the incident. And later, Dr. Andrew Miller's comment.
This is The Evening News with Ivan Loon and Maliva Thorne.
Good evening. As the debate on nuclear energy continues, WAMN News' annual budget surplus priority poll results reveal viewers' support for the matter. With the state and federal elections less than a year away, questions have been raised about alternative nuclear power sites apart from Collie. Peter Kennedy exclusively reveals a location near Perth that has the potential for atomic energy.
The WAMN pre-budget opinion poll has come up with a surprising result with regard to nuclear power. It's found that almost 60% of respondents are in support of nuclear power, which is a big change to what was thought to be public opinion. Certainly since the Labor Party banned uranium mining or banned the uranium expansion back in 1977, there's been no real debate on the nuclear issue. However, it appears that there could be change in the community, and the WAMN poll confirms that. So Peter Dutton and the federal Liberals are going to run on the issue that the nuclear policy should be relaxed and that Australia should look seriously at nuclear power. However, bringing the matter closer to home with Western Australia, if nuclear power stations were to be introduced in WA, where should they be? The Liberals have suggested Collie, and that has some support, obviously, because of transmission lines, and it's also a town whose economy is being turned upside down with the ending of coal mining and coal-fired power stations. However, if it's not going to be Collie, then where will it be? It might be perhaps, it needs to be reasonably accessible to the metropolitan area where the major consumers are. It's in the south. It has to be in the southwest because it's essentially the southwest grid, although it includes part of the midwest. It could be perhaps north of Perth, south of Geraldton, in that area there. In the coastline area between Geraldton and Perth. But it has to be in the southwest somewhere, and there'll be controversy over it, there's no doubt. But that's a challenge for the future, and if we are going to go nuclear, that's an issue that has to be overcome. Other issues the government has to resolve. The Cook government has to resolve the issue of the teachers' dispute, teachers' pay. Teachers are very unhappy with the pay offer the government made, and the strike that we saw earlier in the term could be repeated, and that would be bad news for the Cook government. Also, of course, they're watching their purse strings very carefully with the state budget to be delivered on May the 9th, only a week or two away. So watch that spot. And finally, the issue of Churchlands, the state seat of Churchlands. Lord Mayor Basil Zempilas, the Liberal candidate, and the highest profile candidate the Liberal Party has had for a long time. However, the kitchen sink could be thrown at him in his bid to win Churchlands from the Labor Party, with the suggestion now that a Teal-inspired candidate could be enticed into the field, and that would be likely to cut into the Liberal vote and make it more difficult for Basil Zempilas. Also a suggestion the Nationals might enter the field. But and if the Nationals did enter the field with their incursion into more metropolitan seats, what would they do with their preferences? They'd certainly cut into the Conservative vote, and if they did that, that would be another challenge for Basil Zempilas, who is probably the highest profile Liberal candidate the party has attracted in many years, and very important for the Liberal Party that Basil Zempilas gets through, but it won't be an easy ride. Peter Kennedy, WAMN News.
The cost of living continues to be a crisis for a majority of WA families, with some no longer able to move out of their family home. However, it is not only those within WA who are feeling the strain, with those who have immigrated now feeling the pressure themselves. Paige Reid reports.
Many WA families continue to struggle as the cost of living crisis continues, with businesses and those emigrating really starting to feel the strain. Many businesses are being forced to close their doors as a result of the growing inflation the state is facing. International students are also being affected, with many no longer able to either find housing or afford rentals during their stay.
Immigration obviously has been huge, and that's created pressure on the housing issue, and hence the cost of living has gone up. So there's definitely a direct correlation there.
Calvin Tang, founder of Kingsbridge Australia, says there are two problems needing to be fixed: the housing crisis and labour costs. Tang says until these are fixed, things are only going to get worse.
And when you have businesses suffering, then the question is what do you do next? You obviously got to cut cost. And when you cut costs, look at cutting the first and the most expensive parties, labour cost. The labour cost is huge, and you got to pass it on somehow.
Mr. Tang says one way to help with the rising cost of labour is to bring people in from interstate, but until the WA housing crisis is solved, this may not be possible. The government acknowledges the housing crisis remains a major problem for the state and is still working towards a solution.
We've injected billions of dollars into supporting more housing and also supporting renters who are at risk of being evicted. So we've got a number of programs that are out there, and the government is doing everything possible to increase housing supply.
Many younger people are now living with their parents longer term due to the ever-rising cost of living. Paige Reid, WAMN News.
Hi there. Are you looking for a new home or want to refinance your car mortgage to get a better rate? At AA Finance Solutions, we have the expertise and knowledge to help you to find the right loan for your needs and budgets. Contact us today. Let us help you to make your home ownership dream a reality.
AA Finance Solutions, your local mortgage broker.
A young woman was stabbed in Northbridge this weekend during an altercation, according to police. CCTV obtained exclusively by WAMN News on Saturday shows several youths involved in a physical altercation at a shopping mall car park gate on Nicks Lane at around 4 a.m. on Saturday morning. After the altercation, footage shows several people running away from the scene. In a statement, a spokeswoman from WA Police confirmed that a 21-year-old woman was wounded and was sent to Royal Perth Hospital for treatment of non-life-threatening injuries. Authorities confirmed that a 16-year-old teenager is assisting police with their inquiries. Anyone with information on this incident should contact Crime Stoppers.
Thousands of public school teachers went on strike this week for the first time in over a decade, demanding that the Cook government raise pay and allocate more of the state's surplus funding to WA public schools. Teachers gathered at Gloucester Park in Perth, lining the stands and urging the Cook government to reduce their workload and provide greater support for the state's special needs and vulnerable students. Teachers across the state are demanding smaller class sizes and more available classrooms as they struggle to manage the additional workload and students they currently face. The government urged the union to return to the negotiating table as the dispute drags on.
This government, it's time for them to do their homework. It's time to listen and look at the teachers who have come out in enormous numbers across Western Australia today. Share the surplus, Mr Cook, Ms Saffioti, share the surplus, and please start showing West Australian public school teachers the respect that they deserve.
As the Deputy Premier and Treasurer mentioned yesterday, as the whole government believes we have to be responsible. We are putting what we believe is a very good offer to the union, 11% over 3 years, plus additional incentives, plus additional support in the classroom. As the union, as teachers have constantly said, it's not only about money, it's also about supports in the classrooms.
More than 30,000 Western Australians attended this year's Anzac Day dawn service in Kings Park, followed by a Veterans Parade later in the morning. Thousands of Perth citizens marched into Kings Park hours before the service began, with many taking public transport to avoid the disappointment of not being able to find parking space. The service began at 5:50 a.m. with dignitaries and political leaders laying wreaths at the War Memorial, followed by speeches from RSL WA President Vince Connolly and former Commissioner of Corrective Services and SAS Commander James McMahon. A 1-hour parade was held on St George's Terrace as the current and former veterans marched down the street receiving cheers from the public.
The award medals I wear are not about me. They are about the operational service and achievements of the women and men I led on operations on behalf of the Government of Australia. Women and men just like you and me, who have families and loved ones, who serve on operations with common purpose, courage and determination, knowing that they may, at some point, have to sacrifice their life for the person alongside them. The mission, standing up for what is right and standing up for freedom.
The state government has announced a major funding package for struggling WA farmers. Farmers will receive $8.6 million in grants to help them fight the effects of drought. Agricultural Minister Jackie Javis confirms there'll be $4 million in interest-free loans, $2 million in hardship grants, $1.5 million for community water infrastructure investment, as well as $225,000 worth of donations to charities focusing on rural assistance, and $875,000 for community wellbeing and mental health programs. The financial hardship grants will support farmers in regards to water, transportation and stock feed, and will be capped at $5,000 a business. In regards to the interest-free loans, they will also cover these areas and be capped to $25,000 for each business. The money also is able to go towards creating better irrigation systems, water tanks, feed silos and other drought resilience infrastructure. No repayments are needed in the initial 2 years of the loan, and it must be repaid in 5 years.
And now here's Dr. Andrew Miller with his weekly medical and news commentary.
Hi, thanks for your time. With the rise in measles cases being reported around the world at the moment, it's a timely reminder of the importance of making sure that we have proper immunity to measles through vaccination. The MMR, measles, mumps, rubella vaccine is generally given as part of childhood immunisation in Australia is very effective. And it's a great vaccine because it's a sterilising vaccine, which means that it prevents infection entirely. So you'll be familiar with the concept of the COVID vaccines, which do not prevent infection, but prevent severe disease and the complications of it. And in fact, we also know now that it reduces the incidence of long COVID. So really important to remain healthy, not just to avoid the very serious complications of COVID, but to avoid long COVID by being up to date with your boosters. Back to measles, a lot of middle-aged Australians will have only had one dose of MMR in their childhood when we now know that it's important to have two to confer proper immunity. And as we're travelling a lot, really worthwhile talking to a travel vaccination doctor or your GP about making sure that you are immune to measles because like COVID, like a lot of other viruses, including influenza, can cause some very nasty complications and certainly not something that you want to bring back to your family when you've been travelling. So in addition to COVID, in addition to influenza, worthwhile making sure that you're up to date with all of the compulsory childhood immunisations as well as considering the risk profile of countries you're going to and whether you might need other ones such as the vaccine for Japanese encephalitis. Really worth having a chat to your GP about that well before you travel so that you can plan these things properly. Thanks for your time.
And that was Dr. Andrew Miller. Now, speaking of Anzac Day, a very special day in the Australian calendar, you went to the dawn service, Ivan. How was it?
Well, autumn morning is obviously chilly, but you can see people's determination. 30,000 people walking to Kings Park, and of course that's before you talk about other dawn services across the city and across the state as well. And it's great to see old veterans being cheered on St George's Terrace as they march down every year.
And now, here's Austin with what's coming up on 6 News tonight.
Thank you very much, guys. The top stories we're following on 6 News right now. The Prime Minister has urged government to do better on the issue of violence against women, just days after 2 women were killed in separate incidents. We have all the details on that. Stephen Miles, the Queensland Premier, he is under a lot of pressure at the moment ahead of the state election. He spoke to 6 News in a face-to-face interview just gone. We have some key moments from that as a new YouGov poll comes out that shows it's not looking very good for his government. All those stories and more. Make sure you tune in on the hour every hour on our website 6newsau.com or on our YouTube channel. Just search at 6newsau to find us. For now, though, guys, it's back to you.
Thanks, Austin. And that's our weekly news and current affairs. We have the latest news on our website, wamnnews.com.au.
Remember to subscribe to the WAMN Extra News Club so we can continue our work in the community. Full details on wamnnews.com.au/news/extra. From Melly and myself, wish you good health, good night. See you next Sunday.
Thanks for watching.